Igbo youths write to United Nations over quit notice. The Ohanaeze Youth Council Worldwide, OYC, alleges that there is an impending genocide against the Igbos living in northern Nigeria. The OYC accuses northern youths of falsifying history to justify the hatred for the Igbos in the minds of their people. The group tells the National Assembly to refrain from making any further constitutional amendment without an option for referendum. The Ohanaeze Youth Council Worldwide, OYC, has appealed to the United Nations, UN, for protection for the Igbo people residing in the northern part of Nigeria. The youths in a letter entitled, "A Call for Emergency in Nigeria, Our 2.0 demand," alleged that there was an impending genocide against the Igbos in the north by the northern elites who were acting under the disguise of Accusations. The letter was signed by the group's national president, Accusations, Mazi Okwunabuike, national secretary, Ambrose Arthur-Obiaro, Dep national president, Nrobina Hidogi, national publicity secretary, Daily Post reports. The OYC copied the acting president, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, United States Embassy in Nigeria, the UK Embassy, the Commonwealth, the Amnesty International, among others in the letter. The group faulted a letter the northern youths wrote to Osinbajo recently, accusing the northern youths of falsifying history to justify the hatred for the Igbos in the minds of their people. The OYC called on the National Assembly to refrain from making any further constitutional amendment without an option for referendum. It also called on the UN to mount international pressure on Nigeria to accede to its demand for referendum. See the full letter by the OYC below. A Call for Emergency in Nigeria, Our 2.0 demand. It is with great concern that we alert the international community of the looming genocide against the Igbos in the northern part of Nigeria, occasioned by a well-orchestrated, carefully thought-after plot by the northern hierarchy, who are hiding under the Accusations. Their latest ranting, which they packaged a letter to the acting president, has left no one in doubt as to their motive, a grand design to annihilate the Igbo race. This, they want to achieve so easily through the well-packaged false history, which they have now dished out to gullible minds in order to create a passion hatred for the Igbos in the minds of their people and thereby easily achieve the October 1st planned mayhem against our people. How else could one justify their attempts to stab history in the back by labeling the first military coup in Nigeria as an Igbo coup? How else could people twist history than they're justifying the pogrom against the Igbos between 1966 and 1967, which eventually led to the Civil War? In what measure can one justify the insult on our late leaders, in the persons of late Gen. Agiyi Ironsi and late Call? In Igbo land, we have respect not only for the elders, but more so for the dead, and it is for that purpose that we chose not to go further into this matter. Truth cannot never be changed. However, we must let these youths and their paymasters know that contrary to their claims, our people have made much more sacrifices for the unity of this country, starting from the late Arao Elevanitshaw, Nnamdi Azikiwe. To also justify their planned killing of every Igbo man remaining with the Biafran agitation amounts to hypocrisy of the highest magnitude. May we remind them, for over a decade now, the Boko Haram did not just declare war on the Nigerian state but has gone ahead to seize territories, killed thousands and rendered millions homeless, yet nobody has branded it in action signed by the entire North. Besides, Like the Ohanaeze youths pointed out in their hypocritical letter, the Biafra agitators have their demand for self-determination found in so many characters, including that of the UN, for which Nigeria is a signatory to. Where does the Boko Haram derive its own right to be engaging in mass murder? Our point here, however, is not on the propriety or otherwise of the attempt by Boko Haram to take over every Nigeria territory or the Biafran agitation, but the difficult attempt by the Ohanaeze youths to link every Igbo man with the activities of the IPOB. If it is so, suffice it to say that all of them are members of the Boko Haram sect. Maybe also state that contrary to their claims that Igbo were being accommodated in every part of the country, our people have continued to be killed like chickens, especially in the north, without justifiable reason. The case of Mrs. Bridget Agbaham, a pastor's wife, who was murdered in cold blood, will speak against these youths. The manner her case was muzzled by the Kano state government will make her blood to cry forever against her shameless murderers. We, therefore, alert your attention to another impending massacre of the Igbos, especially with thick rumor of arms being stockpiled in the north and readiness for action. It is even more painful considering undenied claims that some security personnel were aiding the smuggling of these sophisticated arms through the porous land borders in the north. Suffice it to say, sir, that the life of our people are now at a great risk. It does appear that the pogrom of the 60s is here to repeat itself again. There are indications that they are only waiting for the whistle to be blown for them to unleash another round of terror on our people. Given the above, we urge the United Nations to beam its satellite on the northern Nigeria ahead of any eventuality that may befall our people. Considering the manner the security agencies have handled these endless threats, it is unlikely that they may protect our people when these marauders will strike. Secondly, and very importantly too, having seen that Igbos have remained the victims of this marriage called Nigeria, despite our sacrifices, we demand that the ongoing constitutional amendment will not be acceptable should it not make provision for a referendum. It is high time people are given freedom to decide whether they want to remain in a country where they are not loved, not wanted but hated with passion. The National Assembly should make no mistake of undertaking any further constitutional amendment without an option for referendum. This is the only way to go, and we urge the United Nations to mount all necessary international pressures on Nigeria to effect that very much needed amendment. Nage. Com recalls that despite the hues and cries that greeted the 3-month quit notice given to Igbos by Ohanaeze Youth Consultative Forum, a coalition of northern youths wrote a letter to the acting president, Yemi Osinbajo, begging him to allow Igbo to go and have their Biafra republic. In a statement sent to Nage. A Facebook user, Yazid Ahmed, said the group lauded the peace and conflict resolution moves being done by the acting president, but noted that it doubted the efficacy of it in bringing a lasting solution to the problem in question rocking the nation at present.